Dear students, today we shall continue the discussion on protection. In the previous video, we learnt about access matrix. So let us recall what is access matrix. So access matrix is basically used to represent access rights for different domains and objects. So this matrix is made up of rows and columns. Rows are nothing but the domains and columns are nothing but the objects. So access rights are indicated in the cells of the matrix. So here the processes in a particular domain may be having access rights on the objects. Even the domain itself may be acting as objects in the columns. So which are used to indicate the parameters like switch. It is basically indicating switching of the process from one domain to another domain. And access rights can be either read, write, execute, print rights on the objects. Even it can be rights like owner and all. So those things were already discussed in the previous video. Today we shall discuss about the implementation of access matrix. In this we will be focusing on how to implement access matrix. So if you look at the access matrix, it is basically a sparse matrix. That is, most of the entries in the access matrix will be empty. Now let us see how to implement access matrix. There are different ways to implement access matrix. So let us look at option 1. So that is global table. Access matrix can be implemented as a global table, so which is common to all the processes in the system. Hence, the name is given as global table. So, in this global table, we can store the triples. So, that is ordered triples will store in the global table. So, a triple or entry in the global table is of the form is given like this. It is having three entities, that is domain name, comma object name, and set of rights. So the set of rights or the processes in a domain are defined on the object. So that is indicated as a triple containing three entities like a domain name, object name, and set of rights. So a requested operation M on object OJ within domain DI. So here we search the table for DI OJ RK. So this is a triple. So we search the table for this particular triple with operation M belongs to RK. If the triple found, the operation is allowed to continue, otherwise an exception condition is raised. If the triple is not found in the global table, so that will be considered as an error. So an exception will be raised here. Otherwise, the operation is allowed to continue. But there are some difficulties with the global table implementation. Here the table can be very large, which cannot be stored into main memory. It won't fit in main memory, it will be exceeding main memory. So that is one of the drawback of global table, but it is very simple to implement. But the difficulty is that the table will be very large, which doesn't fit in the main memory. Another difficulty is it is difficult to group objects. That is, consider an object that all domains can read. So such things are very difficult to implement in case of global table. Now let us move on to the second option for implementation of access matrix. So that is with the help of access list for objects. So in this particular implementation, each column of the access matrix is implemented as an access list for one object. For every object we are maintaining access list. Access list is basically it's a linked list of the accesses for every object we implement here. So resulting per object list consists of ordered pairs of the form domain comma access rights, set of access rights, defining all domains with a non-empty set of access rights for the object. So it can be easily extended to contain a default set. If M is the operation belongs to a default set, allow to access it. Here each column is equal to access control list for one object defines who can perform what operation. So access control list for one object defining who can perform which operation. For example, so there are domains like domain 1, domain 2, domain 3. For different domains, what are the operations are allowed to perform on the object. For example, if you take a file object as F1 and from different domains, the processes of the different domains can perform which operation on object F1. So that is indicated like this. For domain 1, read-write operations. The processes of domain 1 can perform read-write operations on one object. So similarly, processes of domain 2 can perform read object on one object. Read operation on one object. So similarly, domain 3 processes can perform read operation on one object. So like this, each column is implemented as access control list for one object. So that is defining who can perform which operation. So similarly, each row can be implemented as a capability list like a key. Here, for each domain, what operations allowed on what objects. So that will be defined. So each row is a capability list which is defining for each domain which operations are allowed on what objects. For example, so there is an object F1. Here read operation is allowed on which domains. For object F4, the operations allowed are read, write, execute. For object F5, the operations allowed are read, write, delete and copy operations on each domain. Now the option 3 is capability list for domains. For domains, we can have the capability list. Instead of having the list object based, we can have the list domain based. Here the capability list for domain is a list of objects together with operations allows on them. Here object represented by its name or address called capability. Execute operation M on object OJ, process request operation and specifies capability as parameter. Here capability means access to be allowed. Next, the option 4 is we can implement access matrix as a lock key. So in this particular lock key implementation of access matrix, each object has a list of unique bit patterns called as locks. So similarly, each domain has a list of unique bit patterns called keys. A process in a particular domain can access object if a domain has key that matches one of the locks. So that is what lock key implementation of access matrix. Now let us see what are the comparisons of implementation. So which method of implementation is good one or appropriate one. So let us see how to decide that. So let us begin with the global table. As I already mentioned, global tables are simple to implement, but they can be very large, which does not fit into main memory. Hence, they are not appropriate. If you take access list basically there corresponds to the need of users. Determining the set of access rights for a domain non-localized is difficult. Determining set of access rights for a domain non-localized will be difficult. Every access to an object must be checked. So if there are many objects with many access rights, then the searching will be very slow in case of access list implementation. If we take capability list, so which are useful for localizing information for a given process, but the revocation capabilities can be inefficient. What is revocation? So that is removing access rights from the domain or object will be inefficient if we take a capability list implementation. And last one is lock key implementation. It is very effective and flexible. Keys can be passed freely from domain to domain and is easy to revoke. So lock key is more efficient as compared to other way of implementations. But today most of the systems use combination of access list and capabilities. First, access to an object, then access list is served. If allowed, capability is created and attached to the process. And after last access, capability will be destroyed. So that is how we can have the combination of access list and capabilities. Now let us move on to the next topic, that is access control. In the systems like Solaris 10, we make use of role-based access control, that is called as RBAC. RBAC stands for role-based access control. So that is being implemented in the Solaris 10 system. So role-based access control basically used to implement least privilege. So let us understand what is privilege. Privilege is nothing but it's a right to execute system call or use an option within a system call. Privilege is a right to execute a system call, and it can be assigned to the processes. Privileges can be assigned to processes. Here users are assigned to the roles granting access to privileges and programs. A user is assigned a role. User is having the roles. So the roles are basically defining granting access to privileges and programs on the processes. So these can be enabled with help of password to gain its privileges. So access control is almost similar to access matrix. Here access permissions are granted as per the roles. So that is called as role-based access control. The role-based access control in Solaris 10 can be defined like this. So you know that Solaris 10 is basically Unix system, which is multi-user system. There will be multiple users performing or executing multiple programs simultaneously. So it is basically multi-processing and multi-programming and multi-user system. Here the multiple processes are being executed simultaneously by the multiple users. So it is called as multi-user, multi-processor system or multi-processing system. So let us take a particular user, say user 1. For user 1, we define a role that is called as role 1. Hence it is called as role-based access control. For a particular user, okay, a role is defined, say role 1 with a set of privileges. Okay, for example, you will be having the privileges 1 and privileges 2, and these privileges are assigned to the processes by the user. So that is called as role-based access control. Here processes will execute with role 1 privileges. For role 1 there are two set of privileges defined here, privileges 1, privileges 2. If it is assigned to a process, then if it is assigned to process, then that process executes with role 1 privileges. Now let us move on to the revocation of access right. What do you mean by revocation of access right? Revocation is basically deletion of access right or removing of the access right from the domains of objects. For the revocation of access right, there are various options available to remove access right of a domain to an object. So in this case, various questions about revocation may arise. The first one, whether the revocation is immediate or delayed. So that is immediate versus delayed. It means whether a revocation occurs immediately or whether it is delayed. If the revocation is delayed, then we need to find out when it will take place. So that is whether the revocation can be performed immediately or delayed. If it is delayed, then we need to find out when it will be performed. The second, whether it will be selective or general. When an access right to an object is revoked, whether it is affecting all the users who have an access right to the object, or can we specify a select group of users whose access rights should be revoked. The next one, whether the revocation of access right is partial or total. Can a subset of rights associated with an object be revoked, or must we revoke all access rights for an object? Whether the revocation is partial or complete. The next one is the temporary versus permanent. Whether access rights can be revoked permanently. So that is, a revoked access right will never again be available. Whether it can be permanent, or can access be revoked temporarily. So these are the questions may arise when we think of revocation of access rights from the domains and objects. Now let us look at access list. Okay. Now let us see how the revocation of access rights can be done from the access list. So from the access list, delete access right from the given list. It is very simple. Simply we need to search the access list and find the entry that you want to remove and simply remove it. So deleting an access from access list will be, it can be immediate, general or selective, total or partial, permanent or temporary. All this can be done. In case of capability list, we need to locate a capability in the system before capability can be revoked. Before we can remove any capability, so we need to locate the capability in the system. So in this case, so there are many schemes available here. The first one, reacquisition. So in reacquisition, periodically capabilities are deleted from each domain. If a process wants to use a capability, it may find that capability has been deleted. The process may try to reacquire the capability. If access has been revoked, the process will not be able to reacquire the capability. Second, back pointers. A list of pointers is maintained with each object, pointing to all the capabilities associated with that particular object. When a revocation is required, we can follow these pointers, changing the capabilities whenever it is necessary. So this kind of scheme is adopted in the Multics system. The next option is indirection. In case of indirection, capability points to a global table entry which points to object. So delete an entry from the global table, but it is not selective. So in case of keys, the unique bits associated with the capability generated when capability is created. So there is a master key associated with object, and the key matches master key for access. For revocation, create a new master key. Now let us see what are the capability based systems. Some of the examples we can discuss for capability based systems. First one is Hydra. It is a fixed set of access rights and interpreted by the system, that is rewrite execute on each memory segment. You know that program will be having a different segments like stack segment, text segment, data segment, code segment, heap segment. So rewrite execute permissions or access rights you can have it on each memory segment in case of Hydra. And the user can have auxiliary writes. Auxiliary writes are nothing but temporary writes. You can have the temporary writes on the objects and domains. Accessing process must hold capability, and it should know the name of operation. And write amplification is possible in case of Hydra. And interpretation of user-defined writes performed by the user program alone. System provides access protection for these writes. The next one is Cambridge. The next one is Cambridge CAP system. It is simpler and it is powerful also, and it is having a data capability, provides standard read, write, execute of individual storage segments associated with each object implemented in microcode. Now let us move on to the next one, language-based protection. The protection can be assured through programming language. So that is called as language-based protection. So there are languages like Java which is providing protection during the programming itself. That is called as language-based protection. So language implementation can provide software for protection enforcement when automatic hardware supported checking is unavailable. Now let us see how the protection can be achieved in Java language version 2. Protection is basically handled by Java through Java Virtual Machine, that is JVM. A class is assigned with a protection domain when it is loaded by Java Virtual Machine. The protection domain indicates what operations the class can perform. If a library method is invoked that performs a privilege operation, the stack is inspected to ensure the operation can be performed by the library. So that is how we can implement the access rights. Thank you.